You're listening to the Mind Flipping Podcast, where you'll find tools and tips to help you renovate and update your mind and life.
Hey, Mind Flippers, it's Rick. Welcome back. If you're a returning listener to the Mind Flipping Podcast, and welcome if you're a new listener to the Mind Flipping Podcast. New, old, long time, first time, thank you. I appreciate all of you for listening. And for, simply listening indicates that you have an interest in personal development, personal improvement, in mind flipping, renovating, and updating our minds, our lives. There's a good chance you do it in some form. Either you're a hypnotist already, hypnotherapist, you're into meditation, coaching. For some way, somehow, you're here because you already are mind flipping, and not only your own mind, but you're helping others do it. So thank you. Thanks for all that you do. And so today is a little bit of a different format than the normal Mind Flipping Podcast. And because for only the third time, I believe, it's just me talking mind flipping and some things that have been on my mind for a while. And that's the 5 misses of mind flipping, if you will, the top 5 in my mind, misconceptions, misunderstandings, mistakes of mind flipping, and probably more specifically hypnosis. In fact, definitely more specifically hypnosis. These are, in my mind, common misconceptions, misunderstandings, mistakes that I've made, that I've had in the past, or maybe even currently still at times, that I hope resonate with you, help you, relieve you, or maybe, and I have a feeling there's going to be some of you that say, hogwash, this guy's full of it, disagree, and that's great as well. So before we jump into those 5 misconceptions, misunderstandings, mistakes, a little review. I just got back, as you hear this, from New York, and because I'm recording it just before I go to New York for the HypnoBiz New York. And I see that in the future and past, I had a great time. Met a lot of great people, perhaps even you. And if that's the case, thank you. Because I love meeting and talking mind flipping, hypnosis, meditation, coaching, EFT. I know there's a lot going on in New York, or was in New York. And so that was awesome. And the next conference that I'll be at will be in August, HypnoThoughts Live. I'll be presenting there on podcasting. And so I'd love to see you. If you can make it, I'd love to see you. If you can't, stay tuned to the Mind Flipping Podcast, because there will be more on all things hypnosis and all things mind flipping. And in Vegas in August at HypnoThoughts Live, I'm going to be launching something that I'll be announcing soon. In fact, it's somewhat related to this podcast. Yes, there's a little bit of a teaser, something that I think a good portion of our audience, perhaps that would include you, would have an interest in, would find benefit in. But before we get to that, just a couple of things. A shout out to some listeners, to some mind flippers, Stacy Horn, Craig Pete, Michelle Mazer, Denise Keenan, and Hope Wesley, for their feedback, for your questions, for your input, for everything that you've done, as well as those of you who haven't shared, replied, questioned online as these have. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your suggestions. Thanks for your questions. They're all meaningful, impactful, not only for me, but for the other listeners that are able to hear those or read them. And I appreciate them because they help me serve you better. So thank you, Stacy, Craig, Michelle, Denise, Hope. And also Christian Barman had a comment at mindflipping.com about Mark Gober's episode. Mark is the author of The End of Upside Down Thinking, about how we view consciousness and the source of consciousness. And Mark's podcast, as I think back, was 3 ago. So I think that would have been 77. Yeah. It was really awesome. The book is awesome. And so Christian commented on the fact that he's reading Margins of Reality, which is published out of Princeton University. And in that book, they talk about models for consciousness and seeing the results that Mark was talking about in his book. Christian said he read Mark's book first, and that led to Margins of Reality. And just wanted my comments if I had read it, if I think intent has an influence on the potential outcome of an operation, of a study. And it's all wild stuff. And so, Christian, to answer, I haven't read it. I actually picked up a similar book I recently got, Psychology of Consciousness. Psych Consciousness and Reaching Full Potential by William Farthing. Picked it up on Amazon. It's a used book. Haven't cracked the cover yet. I've just been super busy, but like the book that you mentioned, sounds pretty cool. And so the little Amazon review says, what has modern science swept under the rug? And this is for the Margins of Reality that Christian's talking about. What has modern science swept under the rug? This pioneering work, which sparked intense controversy when first published 2 decades ago, suggests that modern science, in the name of rigor and objectivity, has arbitrarily excluded the role of consciousness in the establishment of physical reality. And the book draws on the results from the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Program, which I know Mark talks about in his book. And what's interesting is I think, and Mark, I don't know if he explicitly says this, but in conversations, he's brought up the fact that it perhaps isn't arbitrarily that those things have been excluded, but because there's not money in it and there's more controversy in it. So I think it's all fascinating, the scientific, personal, social implications that this book, Margins of Reality, talks about, and in Mark Gober's book, The End of Upside Down Thinking, and all of these. How our world, how consciousness, how our reality really works. It's fascinating. So thanks, Christian, for bringing my attention, now our listeners' attention, to the book, Margins of Reality. You can find it on Amazon. And again, thanks to everybody else for your comments and questions. So let's, on that note, all that housekeeping, the important things have been covered. My thank you to you guys. Let's just jump into this brief podcast about the top 5 misconceptions, misunderstandings, or mistakes in the field of hypnosis. So let's start with number 1, a mistake by me, by others. I just was talking to a few colleagues about this, and that's the belief or the feeling that the right technique or purpose, or the next one, is the one that you need to learn that will make the change. That the majority of clients are going to need this, going to need you, me, us to learn this process, technique. It will help them make the change, and on a personal level, it'll make us more effective. Right? That's what we think. But the reality is that, of course, it's not about technique. It's not about a process. Ever. It's about listening. It's about us listening, being a good listener, being open to what they say on their first call to us, on their first email, and listening behind that, and really hearing what's at the issue, what's their real problem. Listening, hearing, feeling the answer. And then really it's about, in so many ways, I think, illuminating the illusion that's in their subconscious mind. And we'll come back to this. But of course, it just helps to remember that it's not the technique, it's not the process that we think we need to learn that's necessary to make the change, because of course we know the client makes the change. I know you're thinking, well, duh, yeah, but we forget that. We forget that it's not us, it's not this magical technique. It's the client. And we can often think that it's us that's so important. Thank God they found us, or the technique, because this is going to take care of them. Or we think similarly that the change has to happen in the session or sessions when they're working with us. Well, if we think about it, what makes success? What if our failure was exactly what that client needed at that time to find within them a resource, a new reality for them, or their deeper truth that's beyond our understanding. And so success and failure, I say, like, what if our failure was exactly what they need? Well, if it helped them get and it's what they needed, even if we couldn't see it in the moment, a week after, a month after, or ever, isn't it possible that they were brought to us for the perfect reason and that success is inevitable? What never fails is unconditional love, as unconditional or more than we think we can, love and acceptance. And if that is really all that we need, it's not to say that we're not going to learn new processes, techniques, understandings about neuroscience and all the wonderful tools for our toolbox. But I really believe, I've seen it over and over, and really study after study tells us that the primary consistent factor in client change is the rapport, the trust, the connection between the therapist, the hypnotist, the practitioner, and the client, person seeking the change. And so if we can, more than practicing a technique, a process, or learning a technique or a process, or perfectioning a technique or a process, we can practice creating a state of unconditional love and acceptance from the moment they contact us, before and after we ever meet them. That's where the change occurs. We create that space for them to make the change. And I've seen it over and over. We're going to get back to my experience when I first started this, before I knew the techniques and processes. And I've learned a lot between here and there, and they're all wonderful, but not necessary. So that's the first mistake or misconception, that the next process or technique, or that we need to learn another one to make us more effective or to help clients. All right, number two, second, is kind of a misconception. It's kind of related to number one. And that's that the change that we facilitate happens in the suggestive therapy aspect of hypnosis. And so in general, most of us will agree, if we're in the field, and if you're new to the field, that there are 4 or 5, maybe 6 different general aspects of hypnosis. There's I guess if we include the pre-talk, and then there's the induction, there's a deepener, there's the suggestive part, and then there's the awakening and the post-talk. There's all these different aspects. But there is a misconception that these processes, these techniques, these understandings that we learn, all the magic happens after the induction and after we deepen them, and in that suggestive therapy, suggestion part, whether it's direct or indirect, or suggestion or storytelling or metaphor, or all of the other ways that we do it, applying NLP. When I see more and more in my practice, and in those that I speak with, whether they're new or have been doing this for a long time, that most often it's in the pre-talk that the change occurs, and that it is in the pre-talk where the foundation is laid for the change that's ratified in hypnosis. That's what the clients expect, and perhaps on that deepest level, that's where the new neural pathways, those new neural connections are established and strengthened, amplified, magnified. But so much of the change happens in pre-talk, in the subtleties of how we act, how we sense, how we feel, that the subconscious flips, makes the change in an instant. When the subconscious, that deeper part of our subconscious, or whatever it is, and it is a bit of a mystery, sees, hears, or feels that misunderstanding. And there's another miss. That in so many ways, the work that we do is simply about helping our clients' subconscious clear up a simple misunderstanding. And that brings me to number 3. The third miss is that most issues that we help clients with, big or small, whether it's a part of their life or as big as their life, changing their whole life, are the result of a simple misunderstanding. There's the third miss, simple misunderstanding. And if you think about it, it is the simple misunderstandings in our life, our past, perhaps our present, as you think about it, those misunderstandings that in so many ways were so simple or are so simple that when left unspoken, unclarified, unforgiven, that ruin relationships, including the relationship with ourself, with our higher truth, with what we know is right for us, with the truth that we came into this world with, until a perhaps well-intentioned parent, teacher, sibling, culture, society created this misunderstanding in our mind that's really not aligned with the life that we want, our truth. And so some examples, if you think about it, the simple misunderstandings, smoking, clients that come to us to quit smoking, it's that misunderstanding that that cigarette is what made them belong to a group of friends, that that's what they needed to belong to that peer group, or that that's what they needed to be sexy or more mature or cooler or thin or relaxed. And we see it all the time in this business. But those are the things that clients on the deeper level, that level that's keeping it a habit, their subconscious has a misunderstanding that those things are needed. It believes it. Eventually, our client's conscious mind, that think and know part of their mind, knows that those friends are gone. I don't need this to keep me thin. It really doesn't relax me. It stresses me out more than anything. And so there's just one example of a misunderstanding, or another one for somebody who's overweight, who's fat. Their misunderstanding is, well, that's just who I am. That's who I've always been. I've always struggled with weight. There's identity in that. Identity in, I hate exercise. I'm addicted to sweets. I'm addicted to wine, to TV, whatever it is. Those are identity things. It's a simple misunderstanding. There's a part of their subconscious who took what perhaps a parent said about them. Oh, everybody in our family struggles with weight. You'll always struggle with weight. You know, everybody in our family does this, or a friend says, oh, you're always going to, or you are and we take on that identity, and we don't have to. And my clients, and probably your clients that make the change that they desire, it's when they simply choose a new identity to clear up that simple misunderstanding. Even, I'm bad with money. My family has always struggled with money issues. Those are identity things. Those are statements that don't have to be true. Something happened. Their subconscious misunderstood those things as reality, and it doesn't have to be. So though all of those things that you've heard, and so many more that you may be thinking about now, are just simply learned misunderstandings, learned behaviors, learned habits. We didn't come into the world with them. So we can learn new ones. We can relearn. We can remember. We can teach our subconscious something better, something that's perfectly aligned with our truth, our goals, our wishes, our desires for our life now. That changes. And we can grow and learn and change, as we always have, intentionally. And we can choose to clear up that simple misunderstanding that those things that we've been living, feeling, and believing are not our highest truth. And we can choose to give up on and release those identities and truths and misunderstandings that began perhaps in our culture, our society, perhaps began or came from our parents, our spouses, our kids, our doctors, simple things they say, our teachers, whatever they are, blah, 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 right? All these other things, people, events that we've allowed to run our lives, but we don't have to. We can clear up at any time that simple misunderstanding. And so that leads to number 4. Fourth is, I guess, kind of a misconception, and that's related to perhaps what you've heard through this, and that's that to be a good hypnotist or hypnotherapist, or to help people with hypnosis, to apply it in your practice, whether you're a coach, a massage therapist, an energy worker, a chiropractor, a helping, healing, service-driven professional, that to do well in it, you need a lot of experience and you need to feel really confident at it. Like you need to master it to do really well. You need to learn more and more. And as I touched on earlier, it's not true. And as we come back to that confidence thing, and actually confidence, as I see more and more in this field of hypnosis, yeah, it's definitely a factor. It's probably the top two things that I think are the biggest ingredients, more than a process or technique in creating change or making that mind flip or facilitating change in your client. Confidence and expectation. But confidence, whether it's real or imagined, it is important. And as Freddie Jacquin said in episode 78, as he was quoting Milton Erickson, even Milton Erickson, one of the top hypnotists, hypnotherapists of all time in many people's mind, one of the founding fathers of the field. And somebody asked him if he ever has doubts if he can help his clients, or if, basically if he can help them. And he said, I have my doubts, and I'm probably paraphrasing a bit. I have my doubts, but I have no doubt that I can keep my doubts to myself. And so you can have doubts and still be confident. And you don't need experience to feel confidence or to do hypnosis well. Because the reality is, confidence is something that we all have. It's a state of mind and body that we all have. We've all experienced it. Sometimes when we feel we don't have it, it's simply because we haven't stepped into that state. We haven't tapped into it. And so how do we do it? We just recognize. We find it. When have I felt confidence in my life? You step into that state and you practice it. And so it's pretty simple. When do you feel confidence? And what does confidence look like for you? And how are you going to know if you're confident? Well, it can be as simple as the example I think of, I'm pretty confident at driving a car, a motorcycle. I think I'm pretty good at brushing my teeth. I'm pretty good at a lot of different things. And when we can step into and identify what those states look like, feel like, are like through all of our senses, we can practice it. We can practice accessing it and applying it to any area of our life, whether it's when we're in front of a client doing hypnosis, whether it's when we're on the stage, whether it's when we are talking about something that we know nothing about. We can step into the state of confidence. And so how do we get better at it? We practice it. We use self-hypnosis, visualization, whatever it is. We journal. We remind our subconscious of our new reality, a reality that we are choosing. We're confident, and we're going to get better and better at it. And so you practice tuning into it, confidence. And so you don't need a lot of experience. It's a misconception. You don't need to practice a lot. You can feel confident as a person new to the field of hypnosis and do well at it. We all have confidence. It's just tuning into it, choosing to step into it, taking it. All right, number 5, the last misconception, misunderstanding. And it's this, it's that if you're not full-time, if you're not a full-time hypnotist or hypnotherapist, you are not a real success. You don't have a real business. You're not an accomplished hypnotist. You shouldn't be getting paid well, blah, blah, blah. I've heard it all. I've heard it from friends, from colleagues about themselves or about others, that if you don't have a 6-figure business, if this isn't all you do, you're not a hypnotist. You shouldn't call yourself a hypnotist. You shouldn't say you have a hypnosis business. You shouldn't consider yourself a success. And first of all, I say that's a lie. It's just another lie. It's another illusion that we all have everything that we need to impact our clients, people that come to us for our help in facilitating change within them. And that's that we all have love within us. We all have the ability to accept others right where they're at. We all have, as I just mentioned, confidence. And beyond confidence in ourselves and our ability to step into that state and that feeling, we can have complete confidence in our clients to change. And really, that's, in my mind, that's where I find confidence in what I do. I see it over and over, the gift that our Creator has given us and the power of our mind to create change. Everybody that walks through my office door has that ability to change. They have everything they need within them to create the change, to create the life, to fulfill the dream, the wish that they have. And so in many ways, I just have to create the space for it. Create the light, if you will, to illuminate the illusion that they have that has been keeping them from that change, from stepping into that life, from releasing that habit. And so it is a lie. We don't have to do this full time. And the second thing is that statement comes from a place of people pleasing, or perhaps you, like me at times, are more worried about others' opinions. I see it all the time at conferences. I hear it from colleagues that have been doing this for a long time. They question themselves. They doubt themselves. I'm not seeing enough clients. I don't really have a full-time business. So what? You're impacting people's lives. And maybe it's not the income, and that's the issue. You're trying to figure out a way to increase your income. But that'll come, and that's a whole nother episode. But really, you can impact somebody. You can call yourself a hypnotist. You can step into that space of being a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, regardless of whether you're doing this part-time or full-time, a client a week, a client a month, or 10 clients a day. Okay. And that is because the only opinion that matters is your opinion, not what somebody in your family or another colleague will say. If they question you, most people don't. And if they do, so what? Who cares? Okay. All that matters is you. Not even your clients' opinions matter. You decide what makes you a success and nobody else. You know where your heart is, where your effort is, where your desire is. You decide what makes you, you. You decide your success, not anybody else. You decide what makes yourself a hypnotist, a success, a service to others. And so I mentioned earlier, I was going to talk about how I got into this. And I think I've shared variations of this story. I'm not sure that I shared it on this podcast. I think some of the other podcasts I've been on. And that's that I first got into the field of hypnosis through coaching. And in my coach training, I was given a visualization script that, in hindsight, had all of the parts of a hypnosis session. There was an induction, there was a deepener, there was the suggestive therapy, and there was an awakening. And so I took my coaching clients through this visualization, as it was called, and they loved it. And it made great, deep, lasting impact on their lives and helped facilitate the change that they came to me for as a coach. And then I had a friend here that he's a chiropractor and went for hypnosis training. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I was always looking to add tools to my toolbox as a coach. And long story short, I ordered some DVDs from now my friend and mentor, Dr. Richard Nongard, and I watched some DVDs. I bought some scripts from Cal Banyan and quickly realized that these were just like that visualization that I had been taking people through, that I could read these scripts and hypnotize somebody. That in many ways in my coaching sessions, when I read that visualization, that's what I was doing. And so I put the word out to friends, to colleagues. I didn't really have much of an email list. I did have a meetup group that I started for sensitive people. And so before I ever got training, and my first training was with Dr. Richard Nongard. I flew down to Texas and trained with him for a weekend. Before I even went to that, by watching the DVDs, by reading the scripts, by practicing a little. I hypnotize people. I put the word out. I actually rented an office that I never needed as a coach because we would do all that over the phone. And I was hypnotizing people before I ever had any in-person training, before I got certified, and they were loving it. They saw the impact. All before I attended a single class. And it was confirmation for me immediately that I can do this. And in time, I saw that anyone can do this, that you can do this, that you can learn hypnosis. You can do hypnosis and you can be good at hypnosis. The truth is, like any field or endeavor, time, hours, practice, and more studying and more learning and more training will improve your skills and it will make you more effective. But that is no reason to not start, to not do it. There's no reason to not believe in yourself. I have trained a lot. I've trained with some of the best, and I'm so grateful I have. And I am getting better, and I'll continue to get better. I better get better. I know I will because I love it. But you have to start. And you don't need anything more than you have to start now and call yourself a hypnotist. You know, painters paint. Pianists pianists play the piano. And if you want to be a hypnotist, hypnotize people. Start. We all start somewhere, and then we practice. We play, and we fail. We make mistakes, and we learn more. And then we practice, we play, we fail, we make mistakes, we learn. And we just get better and better. And we do that all, whether it's a part-time side business or whether it's full-time. Any way that you do it, you can do it right where you're at right now. And if your heart's telling you, I want to do this, listen to that truth, not the illusions that you need to be or do or have something special. Step into it, that you belong to this field, to any field. Call yourself a hypnotist. Step into it because you are enough. You have enough, all that you've ever needed to impact lives. You've been doing it all your life. Just choose to do it even more. And so that's it. There was a lot of connection of similarities between those 5 misses, the misunderstandings, mistakes, misconceptions. I hope you found benefit in it. I hope you found inspiration. And I'm sure some of you will say that's hogwash. And you're right. Because we all have our own illusions. Perhaps I'm living in the land of illusion. We all are in some way, and I love my land. And if you're interested in coming to my land of illusion and believing my truth that any of us can impact lives, whether it's through hypnosis or coaching or meditation or mindfulness or NLP, then join me and do it. All right. Thank you so much, Mind Flippers. I love you. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, I love you. And I appreciate you. And I hope to see you and meet you soon.